Hey, everybody! Welcome to Jon Ferrian Live. Guess what? It's Mother's Day. It's May 10th, 2020. We're still in the heat of COVID-19 across the nation. All of you guys, though, depending on where you're at in the country, either this weekend got a blizzard. I know Minnesota got hammered. I know the Midwest got hammered. I know the East Coast got hammered up in the Northeast. If you were in Maine or in Minnesota, I saw snow on the ground coming down at your house. Guess what? Here in the Pacific Northwest, it was gorgeous. It was high 70s, low 80s. It even got into the high 80s today here. I was hitting the kayak today. 2 days ago, Friday, I was up on Mount Baker, shredding in the snow, doing the wheelies, doing the jumps, having a good time. Come on in, guys. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know. So, Jon Ferrian Live. We got Bill Yeager watching. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for coming in. I hope you're out whitewater rafting this weekend. Drop it in the comments, everybody, where you're watching from. I love to see where these videos are going out to and where we're making an impact. So I see Tia from Santa Barbara. You're here every week. Thank you so much for being here. We have VideoMike Grant this weekend. He is here live, getting ready to roll as soon as we get done with the intro of the show. But you guys all have a job. Your job is to share this out and also then drop in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. Boom. Share and win contest, guys. Every single week, we've got awesome prizes from either Fly Racing Snow or Woody's Racing, the Snowcross Racing team. This week, it's Fly's turn. Last episode and this episode, we're giving away your choice of a Fly Racing t-shirt. Men's shirts, women's shirts, whatever you want. There's all kinds of them on there. Lots to choose from. A lot of pretty cool designs. But honestly, none as cool as this Mother's Day special. Do you guys like this shirt? I love it, my wife, and I love it when my wife lets me go snowmobiling if you read all the fine print. Hope you guys enjoy that. I wore it just for my lovely bride, Edith Ferrian, who's in the house, enjoying a beautiful Mother's Day. We were out kayaking today, went for a walk this morning, all that good stuff. One more thing I want to share with you guys a little bit before we bring Mike on is the Live Large website is up and running. We have Live Large shirts with Jon Ferrian Live. Guess what, guys? If you didn't hear this already, we announced it on Thursday night. We have a website with merchandise on it that you can buy, and 100% of the profits that would come back to me, Jon Ferrian, are going into a Live Large University scholarship. Avalanche Education Scholarships, we're partnering with ARI, who's going to allow us to set up a motorized fund account with ARI. They're a nonprofit, so we can make donations. All the money's going to go in there into a nonprofit. And we're going to then have next winter scholarships based on the funds that we raise. We might have one scholarship if you guys buy not very many shirts. If you buy lots of shirts, we're going to have lots of scholarships. That's how it works. Whatever you put in is what we'll put out. And guess what? Every month we're going to have new merchandise coming, new logos. We're going to have stickers coming. We'll have hats coming. A lot of cool stuff coming down the road. And we're going to phase it in over time so you guys can keep visiting the website and keep coming back. But for now, right now, the header at the top of that website says May 17th is the deadline to get these orders in. So anybody who's ordered in the last week all the way through May 17th, those orders will get cut and then they'll get printed and shipped the following week. So, all right, I'm going to turn off the music and we're going to bring up our buddy Mike Grant here in just a second. And in 3, 2, 1, Mike, here you are. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, John, it's doing real well here in Michigan.
Did you get snow this weekend like I just talked about?
We had a little bit came down, not enough to get on the ground, but
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but
Minnesota.
springtime is not here yet.
Oh man, it was crazy. In Minnesota, my brother was posting a recording of his yard. He had just freshly mowed it, so he was mowing the lawn, a good spring lawn, and then it started snowing. And within an hour or two, his yard was white. It was pretty crazy. If you don't like the weather in
Ye-
Minnesota, just wait till tomorrow, right? Is that what they tell you?
That's kind of the same thing here in Michigan,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. What part of Michigan are you in? Are you in Upper Peninsula or are you in Lower Peninsula, Michigan?
I'm in West Michigan.
West Michigan. Okay,
I'm
sounds good.
kind of between Grand Rapids and Lansing.
Okay, okay. So
Got a little 5 acres in the woods, so I'm kind of like Tarzan out here now during the COVID thing with me and my dogs and the woods and
nice, nice. So you live in a pretty rural area. It's how you like it. I know a lot of us snowmobilers. That's where we like to nest. Is find a nice quiet place in the woods and go rip right from our property.
yeah. I when the snow's good here, I can do that. I live off a bunch of dirt roads, and and run around. But I'm a little far from the trail system, but the dirt roads are nice to run around here in the backwoods and
Awesome.
such.
Well, Mike, let's let these folks know a little bit how you and I first came into to connect with each other and understand who each other was a little bit, and then we'll kind of go back into letting you do a little full introduction of yourself. But my recollection is it was probably about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, give or take a little bit there, that I was at Heydays, probably one of my first times back to Heydays after I moved to Washington. I used to go all the time when I lived in Minnesota, but I had moved to Washington, and then the last 3 or 4 years I've been going back pretty consistently. And I remember one of your sidekicks that you were partnering with there was doing some videoing, and I ended up giving him a ride to the airport. And as I was giving him a ride to the airport, I bumped into you in the campground behind Heydays, and everything was going on. And at the time, I didn't quite grasp who you were, what you were about, but I remember you, and I said hi, and you said hi, and
Yeah.
I went on my way, and we probably never knew any different. But down the road, as my show has become a little bit more known, you had been following it and reached out, and we've been talking quite a bit over this last year, actually, and gotten to be fast friends, I hope. At least that's from my point of view. That's how it's worked out. But would love to hear a little bit from you on, what brought you to the show and kind of your interest in following Jon Ferrian live, and then having a desire to come on the show a little bit, and we'll introduce you.
Well, I'm really into spreading the word of snowmobiling and recreational safe snowmobiling.
Yeah.
And you're a good messenger. You got a good following on it, and I've got a pretty good following going behind me on it. So I just
Absolutely.
like to work with people, work within the industry, and we share the same passion and share the same want to tell people how to go snowmobile and where to go and how to have fun doing it.
Absolutely. It's snowmobiling is such an awesome sport, and to be able to grow it in a positive way and to kind of get people into it in a safe and, strategic way that's going to allow them to really enjoy it without risking, life or limb in some cases by doing it the wrong way. I think you and I are both passionate about that, and you're right. We're very aligned in our messaging, and you've been doing it a lot longer than I have, and that's what we're going to get into tonight. Some pretty incredible stuff that you've documented over the years, that you've been involved in over the years, and all of that. But let's let everybody get to know maybe a little bit about who's the man behind the camera first. And, where did you grow up? When did you first get into snowmobiling? If you want to share a little bit about your family, I'll turn it over to you for a few minutes. So.
Well, I used to be, well, I was working for ESPN, and I was being a freelance cameraman for ESPN, doing a lot of stuff with the AMA Pro Hill climbs and races and traveling around the country doing that. And like in 1993, I got contacted to do a snowmobile TV show.
Okay.
Not my own show, but just to do one that working with the Michigan Snowmobile Association. And they put me on a 83 Yamaha Exciter, little mini sled, and I had my big camera, 3/4 inch decks, a buck a minute for the videotape and cables, and
That's awesome.
learned how to splice cables in the field. And when stuff fell apart, and just I fell in love with it. I did that show for 2 years,
Yep.
worked with them, and that kind of fell apart, and I just went back into my freelance world of video. And from there, after a couple of years, I just kind of like going, I want to get back into snowmobiling again.
There you go.
And I told my wife at the time, I'm going, yeah, I'm going to go start my own snowmobile TV show. And her first thing she says, you don't even own a snowmobile. And I go, well, so I bought a 97 Ultra Triple,
Nice.
used,
Nice.
fast and furious sled.
Those were 680 in the day, if I remember right. Weren't the Ultras
Yes.
680? Yep.
Yeah. They called them a 700, but the insurance, if it was under 700 cc, the insurance was less.
There you go.
Liability. So, and when I first started it, and it was probably like 96 or 7.
Okay.
And I got the idea to do it, and spent about 2 years creating my own first little pilot episode.
Okay.
Because I was still working.
Okay.
And my spare time took the show, and took about 2 years to put it together and do it the way I wanted to. Took it to a PBS, and PBS said, wow, we kind of like it, but we don't think you can do more than one. So come back when you got 6.
Okay.
I'm going, wow, it took me 2 years to make one. I got to make six.
That's awesome.
So it was still a part-time gig for me. So it took me 2 more years to make the 6 episodes. I came back. They were a little surprised, but they liked it. They said, okay, we'll air the series. And I got all the Michigan PBSs to agree to play it.
Nice.
And I contacted New York State, Minnesota PBSs and got, after about a year or so, I had about 23 or 4 or 5 PBS stations picking up the show.
Nice.
I would buy satellite time once a week and distribute it via satellite to the stations. They would load it, play it at their own time slot. And we played that way for quite a while with it. And it just kept on growing.
That's awesome.
And I said, Ben, I go, this will be fun if it lasts for 3 or 4 years, if I can make it grow. And 22, 3 years later, I'm still in it.
Yeah, I would imagine your early days of kicking off the show and what you've just described was probably very similar to me from a standpoint of, you start this and after a while you're kind of like, how do I come up with new content or how do I keep coming up with, telling new stories and something different that's going to keep people engaged? And I think you learned very early on what I've learned in doing this is that, the content on these topics is unlimited, right? Because what I've discovered, and I know what you've discovered, is it doesn't matter if it's a lodge, a person, a pro athlete, or whoever it is everybody has a unique story. Even though it may on the surface seem similar, like everybody's got their new unique perspective, a unique way they approach things, and it's, you're like me, a storyteller, right? It's like my job is to bring you on and tell the stories, and that's what you've been doing over the years as well as,
it's help other people tell their stories, and it's telling my story. If I went to this place, here's who I met. Let's hear their story. Yep. Take me around snowmobiling. Show me what you got.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because snowmobiling, to me, unless you're introduced to it, it's not the kind of thing you're just going to like go out and get a rowboat and try rowing or something. Or it's very obscure and different, and most people can't fathom going out and having fun at 15 degrees. And
yeah, and that's something, Mike. You and I dialoguing over the last couple of weeks here, getting ready for this show. It really got me thinking about some things, and I think one thing that myself and quote unquote a lot of these people in the industry are really good at is talking to other snowmobilers. But one thing I want to commend you for, and one thing I want to brainstorm with you on tonight as we go through this and how we can approach this, and even the people who follow us and share this show out is, how do we introduce new people into the sport, right? And it's like, you've got to go to where people are at. And like, how do you engage, a community that's not currently looking for snowmobiling? And I know this wasn't even in our scripts, but I'd love to just kind of talk with you about this for a few minutes is, when you thought about, some of the ideas you had about, getting a hold of, what's the thing I'm thinking of, like in the community, the tourism boards and stuff like that,
tourism recreational bureaus.
Yeah, the tourism bureaus. So, like, to me, that was genius that you were able to approach them and get them involved in promoting and supporting their community. And in a lot of cases, these tourism bureaus don't even think of snowmobiling, right? They're thinking of like the hiking trails or renting a boat down at the lake or, a cabin and all those type of things. But in most cases where there's snowmobiling happening around the country, there's a lot of downtime in the winter, and a lot of these businesses can be starving. And one thing you've helped, so I'd love to have you just take a few minutes and think about outside the box of like, what were the things that you did to connect to people outside of the snowmobile community? What were the key strategies that you drove? Because I'd love to even personally, just for my own benefit, take some notes, because I think as we share these shows, even what we're doing here and showcasing what snowmobiling's about and get people out there, I'd love to kind of like leverage some of those ideas and continue to help grow the sport, in your legacy that you've started.
Well, there's two things behind it. Back when I started, video, not everybody had a video camera. Phones didn't exist. VHS was just coming out and was still pretty crappy stuff. And editing, was deck to deck editing. So nothing was simple back then. But it was create something that I could show people the fun they could have. I could introduce them to people that could take them snowmobiling.
Yeah.
And now we have Facebook and social media, and we're talking to snowmobilers. But my thing was to more give snowmobilers a tool that they could show other people what it's about, and introduce them to it, and say, "Hey, call your friends." And it was always like SnowTrails TV is on. Call your friends and neighbors and let them know to tune in right now.
Yeah.
And let's take a friend snowmobiling, which is one of the big campaigns that the manufacturers put together, was take a friend snowmobiling
Yeah.
with the Go Snowmobiling campaign and the International Snowmobile Manufacturers Association. So I just kind of early adopted that philosophy of let's show people how much fun it is and take the mystery out of snowmobiling. Introduce the state associations and the local clubs that are around, and the council going, if you're up in Irons, Michigan, and you live right around there, there's snowmobiling, there's rental. Here's who you call, and they'll set you up and take you out, take you on your first trip, so you're not doing it by yourself.
Exactly. Well, and you think of like even, PBS in the day or just traditional TV in the day as like, when you first got started, there was a lot of these rural communities where, you know, people had very limited. I remember growing up in central Minnesota and like, we didn't have cable. And so
Oh, cable didn't. It wasn't really going on back.
yeah, and so like we had maybe, if we were lucky, somewhere between 5 and 10 TV channels that were there, and so we were pretty limited on what we could watch. And so if something popped up that was new to us, we were exposed to it. And the world has gotten to be the point now where there's so much content everywhere, and everything is so specialized that people are following what they love. And how do they then get introduced to something? And I think you're right. It's the take a friend snowmobiling. And if, to me, that's one of the big takeaways from this video today that we're doing is anybody who's watching it, take that to heart, right? If you can figure out a way to take a friend that has never been snowmobiling, frankly, it's something that I do all the time, like just through our clubs. There's new people who are starting. I've got friends, whether it be literally through our church or through work. I bring people out all the time that are new to snowmobiling, and I've always got an extra sled in the garage. We try to bring people out, and it's amazing how many people get excited about it and get hooked on it. And before you know it, they're spending money at all kinds of places like dealerships and clothing manufacturers and all that
how
stuff.
expensive it was going to be before they got into it. They probably wouldn't have.
Yeah, they were my friends before I introduced them to snowmobiling, and afterwards now they won't talk to me anymore. No, just kidding, because they're busy snowmobiling.
Oh, and it cost me 20 grand a year to buy a sled, and it's like $200 a day on the average to go snowmobiling if you're staying somewhere and lodging and food and drinks.
Yeah. And for the for the folks who are watching the show tonight, Mike, I know we're going to go into a lot of really cool information, but right now, just as kind of a sneak peek into some of the things we're going to talk about later in the show, is highlight some of just like the top few names in the industry that you've been able to video and hang out and to hang out with. And we'll just touch on the names now, and then we'll get back to the stories a little bit later in the show. But I think, for people to hear now what they're going to hear through this episode, I think would be cool to give them a little teaser. So give us a quick rundown of some of those really incredible things, people specifically that you've gotten to interact with over the years in doing your videography.
One of the first guys, Dan Adams.
Incredible guy.
And then I got introduced to Matt Enns.
Yep.
And Chris Brandt, got to ride with them. 3C guiding with the Clementi brothers.
Yep.
Taught me around, and they were my very early days, like when I went out west for the first time and I got that picture of the moose.
Yeah.
There was a moose that used to hang around.
Yep.
And I got daring and walked up to it and did a show open next to the moose there.
Yep.
But and then Luke Wildman Dobbs, I became fast friends with him. We've been working together ever since kind of the beginning.
Yep.
For my Western stuff that I do. Skinner Bell.
Yep.
From Togety Mountain Lodge. Now he's out at Brooks Lake Lodge.
Yep.
Ridden with him a half a dozen times and taking me around, and like he's the first guy that said, "Here, we're going to jump off this cliff." And I said, "No, I'm not." And he says, "Well, you have to, because you couldn't go back the way we came."
Oh, nice. Gotta love that. And then I recall actually through the Washington State Snowmobile Association, I don't know if you did a direct interview or if Levi recorded it, but you'd interact with Levi LaValle also, didn't you, on some of those little public announcements type things?
A couple things with Levi LaValle and getting him to introduce snowmobiling, and actually got to ride with him one time. And
so pretty much anybody who's anybody. Yeah, in the snowmobile industry, you've had a chance to interact with over the years, and those are some of the stories we're going to tell tonight, which I'm super excited about. We're going to get into that here just shortly. And so let's talk a little bit about the videography that you've done. You introduced the fact that you started at ESPN, you did some stuff with PBS, you pitched your first episodes with PBS and stuff too. But at what point did it kind of click for you and you pulled together what was the legacy of SnowTrails TV? Let's talk specifically about SnowTrails TV and kind of the inception of that and kind of the evolution of that a little bit. And then we'll go into maybe some of the specific events that you've done over the years.
Well, PBS was okay, but I only had like 25 stations, and I
Hmm.
wanted to expose snowmobiling to the masses.
Yeah.
And I've actually gotten emails from people that saw the show in Florida or saw the show in Georgia, and they said, "We're going to go take a snowmobile trip," based upon what they had seen and heard, and went and did. So it kind of started up that way. And then after about 7 or 8 years on PBS found out that I was trading the hotel for time on the show.
Okay.
And you're not allowed to do that on PBS.
Oh, funny.
I had to pay the hotel,
Okay.
and the hotel could not pay me to be on the TV.
Okay.
I couldn't accept money from anybody
Oh,
to
funny.
do it directly that was on the show. So sponsorship was a little tough, but it was like I had to come up with $500 a week to buy the satellite time,
Yeah.
get as many stations as I could, and I was able to make that happen. And like I said, I thought it'd happen for 3 or 4 years. Yeah, 6, 7, 8 years later, it went in, and some of the TV networks, the major sellers, TV buyers,
Yeah.
were starting to contact me, and I go, no, I'm okay where I'm at. And then finally, when PBS failed, I gave them a call and said, hey, let's go to national TV. They said, okay, you got commercials. You buy the half hour, you got commercials, 9 30-second commercials. You get to sell them, make the commercials, and put the money together and pay us.
There you go.
And then so we did that with on Fox Sports Net for a while. And then I wanted to grow a little bit bigger. So I got offered a Saturday morning time slot on Destination America Discovery Networks, which was it's cable. It was cable TV, but it was national cable TV, and it would go everywhere. And then it was able to just spread the word to the snowmobilers. Hey, tell your friends and neighbors.
Yeah.
Tune in, find it, get it on your DVR, and share the sport and share the passion and share the safety aspects of it. Safety was a big thing with it.
Yeah.
And the people that introduced me to snowmobiling, Bill Manson, especially from the Michigan Snowmobile Association, they wrapped me in pretty close, and I worked with they introduced me to the International Snowmobile Manufacturers Association, which is the Go Snowmobiling campaign.
Okay.
And then eventually I started to hear about really getting to learn organized snowmobiling. And everybody was snowmobilers are kind of a renegade individualism thing. And it's like, no, join the club, become a member, support snowmobiling,
Yeah.
support safety education, spend the dues, the $40 a year to be a member of the club, and help support them give the safety messages out and pay for stuff. So it just kept on growing and growing and growing. And eventually we were hitting close to 85,000 viewers a week.
That's amazing.
Games.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And you think about the stats that you've pulled in over the years, and even when you look at like in a social media world today, the views that even some of the top people in the industry get now still struggle to even come close to that, right?
Oh
And
no,
so,
yeah, I was pushing in 3 months 1.25 million viewers.
yeah, no, it's just
It was kind of to the point where I admit that there was a couple stores I stopped into, and people have said I got a little unique voice, and I would say something,
yeah,
standing in line, and they turn around and go, "You're VideoMike from SnowTrails TV."
that's awesome.
Or I'm walking out of the a rest area,
Yep.
walking around the rest area, and they recognize me. You're SnowTrails TV, and I'm going, "Oh, I got to be careful where I go." And what did I say? When I first started video, I was behind the camera, running around. I was kind of a retired guitar player and always into the entertainment industry, and had grown my hair out pretty long, and it was
Yeah,
long, curly, rock and roll hair.
there you go.
And then when I had to go on TV, I did my first little pilot test. I go, you got to get your hair cut. So I went down to my stylist and said, chop it off. She goes, well, how short? I go like, I got to go conservative. I'm going on TV. so,
I'm going to be a movie star, right?
so I'm going to try this. And, I would kept telling other people what to say, but I just kind of told myself, I go, just tell yourself what to say,
Yeah.
introduce it, and then start the story with somebody else telling their story.
Yeah.
Introduce it. And it just kind of clicked along. They accepted me doing it, and it just played out nicely.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of, as you've described that, there's a lot of similarities to how my show has evolved, and how I introduce guests and bring people on and help them tell their stories as well too. And so it's a lot of time and effort and work goes into all of it. I can tell you that from my own experience. I know.
it was
Yeah.
it was a full-time job, and I mean more than a full-time job, because during the wintertime, I was gone probably 3 months out of the 4 months of winter, traveling on the road doing this thing.
Yeah.
And then people said, well, what do you do during the summertime? And I go, well, when you're on national TV, it takes about 4 hours of editing for every finished minute to get a broadcast national TV quality ready to go. Everything be perfect. No mistakes could be made in national TV. So it was about 4 hours a minute.
Yeah.
So you have 22 minutes that you got to produce. And I'm going, okay, that's a lot of hours. And that's
amazing.
just for one show.
Exactly.
80 hours for one show. I had to produce 10 PBS when it turned in. It was like 10 shows I had to produce from one season.
Well, nowadays, this is what most people are, right? Making recordings and videos, and even you and I'm on a stinking laptop. Like it's not exactly a high production video equipment like you had to use over the days. And so let's talk a little bit about that, right? It's like people thinking they hear about what you're talking about, but I think we're all stuck in this mindset of like everything's on a laptop or a phone like this.
Oh, no, it was three-quarter-inch videotape.
Yeah, talk to us about the equipment that you used over the years and where it has gone from to where it went to towards the end of it. So,
and yeah, three-quarter-inch videotape came out, and I worked with that. It was big cables and big cameras on my shoulder and carried them around. And because it was snow conditions, you had a pretty high failure rate out in the field, so you had to learn.
Yeah,
you couldn't bring your gear into the restaurant or bar when you stopped in, because if you brought it in, everything condensated and shut down.
Oh, I know, right?
And carry a stack of videotapes around. Then Beta SP came out, the new broadcast standard, and I bought a Beta SP deck and air camera and thing, and that was a big, huge, bulky, over-the-shoulder broadcast thing at $1 a minute for the videotape again.
Yeah. And then at some point, you had a really big GoPro. Tell us about this. Tell us about that.
Well, I have this. That's a 360 cam. It gives me a very wide angle.
Oh, okay.
So and when I'm running around, I have I usually have 3 to 4 cameras mounted on my sled.
Okay.
One mounted on my handlebars, one on my tail looking back, one on my helmet, and then I have a strap around the neck and carry one handheld.
Yeah.
And then the drones came about and got into bringing the drone along.
Nice.
And just going, let's not just be one camera, one angle telling the story.
Yeah.
Because people's attention span, they want to see things change.
Yeah.
And as I grew up, I was kind of out of the movie set era where nowadays things change much faster. The videos have to edit together your 2-3 second shots. Back in the day of making movies and storytelling, everything was 5, 10, 15 second shots, long shots.
Yeah.
So I had to, and as things got more advanced, I got lectured as I got older
There you go.
by some other guys going, hey, catch up, move it quicker.
Yeah, that's the hard part is when you get involved.
How to grow better and get the attention of the younger crowd.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is you found success along the way. And when technology changes so fast, there's like this whole second wave of people coming in behind you doing this similar type thing, but with the newest, latest equipment because they've only had to buy it once, right? Where you're now in your 3rd or 4th generation of equipment. It's a big deal. And it's a big different, it's a lot of investment that goes into all of this type of thing. And so,
I'm through about 6 generations of video gear putting it together.
Nice.
And then finally things came out with the SD card.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember in the early days going, someday it's all going to be digital. I hope I'm still around when it is.
Yeah, that's
And they
awesome.
get this figured out. And someday I'm going to be able to edit all this on a computer and not have a $50,000 control room
Yeah,
with decks. And if you wanted to do a dissolve, you had to have an AB switcher going on.
yeah.
And you want to have picture in picture. That was a $40,000 machine that would do a picture in picture fly through.
There you go.
$6,000 computer just to make graphics and put text in
Isn't that crazy?
video.
And nowadays, it's all just you drop it into your laptop and you do some editing, and you
Yeah,
almost
now
have that kind of quality now.
I carry around a 27-inch iMac with me when I'm on the road.
Yep.
Shoot digitally, and because now it's moved to social media in the last couple of years.
There you go.
And I kind of shoot during the day, get back to the hotel at night, have a couple beers, and sit around with some buddies, and I edit out 3 or 4 minutes of this was our day today of a 3 or 4 minute video.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
And pop it up on Facebook, and by the morning it's got 1,000 views.
That's awesome. And so, Mike, we're going to shift gears here just slightly. I'm going to tee it up for you to start thinking about some of the cool things that you've done. I know you and I created a top 10 list for you, and I want you to start tackling that here in just a few minutes. But in the meantime, I want to call out, we've got a super highly engaged viewer here watching this, dropping all kinds of comments in. I'm trying to think too. But I just want to thank Matt Weeks here for just being engaged in the video tonight. You've got all kinds of great content here, sharing that you've been doing some videoing, getting people involved. A lot of folks here are sharing stories in the past about getting other people involved in it. But Matt, you obviously are an engaged sledder. You're doing some videography yourself, getting people in there too. So big shout out to you, Matt Weeks. Appreciate what you're doing. Thanks for sharing the show out and engaging us here. So with that in mind, I want everybody to remember that, feel free to share this out, right? This is part of the legacy of snowmobiling, some of the cool stuff that VideoMike here has done over the years. We're going to go into some of those details here now. And so great time to just take a moment and share to your personal page if you can, because just like we talked about earlier, getting new friends into snowmobiling, sometimes it's just a matter of sharing something on our personal Facebook pages that maybe somebody we work with or somebody from our community that we, are friends with, they're kind of secretly jealous about snowmobiling, and then they're going to hear an episode about something like this and all the cool things that all of us snowmobilers do. So that's why we want you guys to share this out and get the message out. But Mike, why don't we dive into, you've talked already about, the things like take a friend snowmobiling, join a club. You didn't talk about it yet, but we'll maybe briefly touch on this is there's no center line. The right side is mine. I want you to talk about those initiatives just briefly. And then we've also talked about just the need for clubs and associations and your ambitions to push people there. But then let's go through that top 10 list there too. So if there's something you want to touch on about, take a friend snowmobiling, join a club, or there's no center line, the right side is mine, just briefly touch on those, and then we'll dive into the top 10 list.
Well, there is no center line, the right side is mine. I actually, I didn't come up with that myself.
Okay.
Right, that final one I did, but there's a saying very similar to it. And there's a snowmobile memorial up in the UP.
Okay.
The guy got killed, and there was something to that being said on it. Crossed the line, and snowmobiles collided.
Yeah.
So I said, if you're going to be out snowmobiling, just plan it in your head. There is no center line. The right side is mine.
Yep.
And I opened up every show that way, and I closed every show that way. And I did it for about 10 or 12 years doing that. And then one time I said, I've said that enough. I'm done saying it. And then I started getting a bunch of feedback going, how come you're not saying it no more? They're going like, I hear you saying it, and they're telling me that they're saying it to themselves as they're going down the trail because I've said it so much.
Yeah.
So it's clicking into their head and embedding.
Yep. No, there's a lot to be said for these safety messages of, that's frankly why we keep covering these topics so often is, avalanche awareness, just, don't drink and ride, stay right, speed kills, there's a lot of things and episodes we've done over time, and we keep hitting them with different people from different perspectives, and there's always lessons learned of, what they've done wrong and what they've learned from it. And so no different than you with your show. So
the other big thing is to know your limit and stay within it.
Oh, exactly.
Just because you're riding with somebody that's ridden for 4 or 5 or 6 years and can go through the corners real fast, don't try to keep up with them.
Yep. Nope.
If it's your first time or two out, get used to it.
Cool.
Learn it slowly and easily.
Yeah.
In 2006, I was introduced to the International Snowmobile Congress.
Okay.
I don't know that many people know this, but every year, all the state associations and provincial organizations get together and meet for 3 or 4 days at some location and talk snowmobile business and get everybody on the same page doing that. And that's how I met all the leaders of all the state associations.
Yeah.
And they'd kind of seen my SnowTrails TV with Michigan, and that it was pretty consistent. If I went out and did a story, I came back with a story. I had a pretty high success rate, like probably 98% of the time I went out, I came back with a decent story.
Yeah.
That worked. So that's how it started to grow, was through that. And then after a couple of years of me just going to these ISCs and me being a media guy, I realized that there's a lot of professional people in snowmobiling that do everything. But when I was going there, there was like really nobody that understood media and what it took to do media.
Yeah.
And back in the day, I used to be a stagehand and set up concerts and be a concert cameraman and big screens and projection stuff.
Okay.
So I picked up the job of working the main stage video at these big conferences and putting them together so we're projecting, everybody can see it. And I've been doing that now for probably the last 8 of 10 congresses I have worked at.
Nice.
And I've been out to Washington State.
Okay. Yep.
And did some very cool stuff out there.
Yeah.
Very good mountain riding. And I just want to throw out there too that I have all these videos online.
Okay.
There's I have a YouTube channel, but then I also have another thing called Vimeo.
Yep.
And I probably got close to 500 snowmobile videos online.
Okay.
My career of doing that I upload them there, a storage place. Because on Vimeo, you could download them. People could download the file to their computer because back in the day, social media didn't exist. So it was a way that here, you have it on your, and you want to share it with somebody, you can share it watching it, or you can download it on your computer.
Yeah. Yeah, YouTube's been an amazing resource nowadays. And then, the Vimeo product, I know I've seen a lot of videos out on there over the years as well, too. So, and then social media, of course. So.
And then through the ISC, I was introduced to the Ontario Federation of Snowmobile Clubs and the FCMQ, which is Quebec's snowmobiling organization, and picked up government contracts promoting Quebec and Ontario tourism to the U.S. side.
That's a big one. And that's one that stuck out in my mind too, is, all these tourism bureaus and, local community centers like that are promoting their communities in some way, shape, or form. If there's a club out there, there's folks like myself, there's a lot of different angles that a lot of us could engage and re-engage those folks all over the country and try to highlight snowmobiling in a positive way. And so just throwing that out there as an idea for anybody who's trying to make a difference in their community. It's something you've leveraged over the years, and it's something that I know for me personally, it's underdeveloped in my tool belt personally. I think that's something that I could definitely lean into more in my local area to try to reach out to, local media like newspapers. And we did that here. The Seattle Times a few years back came out and did a news article of snowmobiling here in the Pacific Northwest, but it's probably 4 or 5 years ago now. So it's probably time to hit them up again and other places as well. So.
Yeah, snowmobiling doesn't get much media. And really, the only media that it really gets is if something bad happens.
True story. Yep.
Then news picks it up. Someone gets killed. Yeah, we had 10 people killed on the trail in the last 3 weeks. Then it hits the news. Not the fun you had, not the 50,000 people that went out and did it, but just the 10 that got hurt doing it. That makes the news.
Yeah.
So I wanted to change that image a little bit and make people a little bit more aware.
Yep.
And give snowmobiling a positive image and a way to get into it.
Nice.
So I've been really lucky. One of the highlight places I've been to when I was in Quebec was riding the Gaspé Peninsula.
Tell us about that. What was that experience like? And remind us exactly where that is again. So it's up in Quebec.
The Gaspé is kind of northeast Quebec. Kind of sticks out a little bit, and a little peninsula out there in Quebec. And We did like, I think it was 2,000 feet in elevation
Okay.
in one day, but it was elevated ascent. My
Okay.
GPS was tracking all the ascent, 2,000 feet in one day,
Nice.
but it was going up 500 or 600 feet, 300 or 400 feet up and following a mountain trail
Okay.
around the peninsula, back down to sea level and back up again, looking over and back down to sea level and around. And we spent a week in the Gaspé Peninsula. I've been there a
Okay.
couple times.
Sounds like an amazing place.
It absolutely is. It's like the snowmobiling there is unparalleled. For trail riding, it was the best trail riding because, a lot of places here in the U.S. that get the publicity, that's where everybody goes.
Yeah.
So you go out and then you're riding in somebody else's tracks or somebody right behind you. You can see 50 sleds in front of you.
Yeah.
On a day in the Gaspé in Quebec and Ontario, it was like if you saw 10 or 20 sleds a day, that was a lot. And it was usually everybody left around 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. Between 8 and 10, they'd leave their base. So around noontime, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, everybody crossed paths. And then you get into your next home base because up there it's mostly saddlebag touring. You can stay in one little area for a day or two, but a lot of it is saddlebag touring where you just carry all your gear on the sled.
Yep. Nice. Nice. And so
And
I'm gonna read a couple of comments here, and then I'll have you go into your next few items on your top 10 list here after the peninsula. Is we've got Cal Taylor saying that they've done 4 news spots in Utah around some of their avalanche training and stuff that they've done and positive aspects. And then here in Washington State, Bill Yeager is a local search and rescue guy, and he says that if Mike ever wants to come out to Washington and partner with me, John, and Bill, I know Bill's part of our local club. He'd be happy to host us and show us around and be part of that if we can to highlight things like search and rescue and the positive aspects of snowmobiling out here in Washington State. And we have Tia Smith, one of our guests. She's actually, believe it or not a snowmobiler. She's one of the people who watch the shows every week. And as far as I know, has probably never snowmobiled. But she goes, I was on the news recently doing volunteer work here in Santa Barbara with the food bank. And so, again, that positive public publicity, getting all that information out. We got David Knapp talking about Chick Chalks and the Gaspé are some of his favorite destinations up in the Northeast. And so a lot of people resonating with some of the some of the things that you're saying here. So, so after the peninsula, you talked a little bit about a saddlebag tour in Quebec, and then you've been to British Columbia. There's a few other things here as we go through these. I want you to keep going through these for us and tell us about your top 10 list of your favorite memories or experiences over time.
Well, I hooked up with some friends that were into doing saddlebag tours in Quebec.
Okay.
They were called the Dark Side Adventures, and we do anywhere from 5 to 7, 8, 9 days. 2,000-mile trips.
Nice.
Saddlebagging, and I'd bring all my video gear along and film the thing and make an episode or so out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Quebec tourism helped pay for it all because I had to buy TV time.
Yeah.
And cover that, and TV time was like I was kind of crazy to have to get into this because it was like $4,000 a week.
Yep. You better get some sponsors and get some time, some people paying their way, right?
And you got to buy 13 weeks of time.
Wow. It's a big investment.
$4,000 a week. So I'm going, okay, this is real serious. It's a little stressful. And during the summertime, I work about 110 hours a week, 115 hours a week, raising the money.
Yeah.
And for the most part, most of the time, I was a one-man band.
Yeah.
Doing sales and then doing the editing and just working till exhaustion late at night and couldn't sleep in the morning because I got stuff to do.
Yep.
Wake me up. I need to put in my 14 hours today, and if I don't get up
yeah, as if snowmobiling isn't expensive enough sport already, then you add videography into it and trying to buy airtime and everything too. It kind of a big investment, but a worthy cause, and so we appreciate you doing this over the years. So.
Yeah, 2003, I bought my first new sled after the 97 Ultra blew up. I bought a 700 Classic with the M10 suspension.
Okay.
Loved it. It was a great little sled, and had all the aftermarket manufacturers update my sled.
There you go.
USI is on it. We have the air ride suspension now with the push button air suspension.
Yep.
Have front air ride suspension put into it. Camoplast gave me a good track for it, and
There you go.
Nelson Speed Shop would fix it. But then that sled racked up about 9 or 10,000 miles and broke down, and Polaris said, "Look, don't tow a Polaris ever again."
So they put you in a new Polaris every year after that, it sounds
So
like.
then
Right?
after that, I got a new sled every year.
That's
Well,
awesome.
the first 2 years it was they would give a sled to Ed Klim, who's the director of the International Snowmobile Manufacturers Association,
Okay.
and that sled and they'd take legislators out on legislative rides with it.
Okay.
So it'd get about 400 or 500 miles on it, barely broken in, and then I would get it.
Yeah.
And then after a while, after 4 or 5 years of that, they just said, "Fine, we're going to take your pick."
Yeah. So each year you get to snow check a new one, and actually we've got somebody named Chris McGraw here is asking, what are you riding for next winter? And I know you got like a secret little pop-up backup screen there behind you. You want to pop that up behind you for a second and show everybody what you snow checked this year? Is that something you can do
Let me
without?
see if I can make that happen here. Yeah. I snow checked an 850, 850 Polaris. I had a SKS this year,
Okay.
and the SKS was absolutely wonderful. I had a great time with it.
What
See if I
track?
can get
What track length was the SKS that you rode this last year?
146 with a 2.5-inch paddle.
Nice.
So it wasn't a full backcountry. It was a crossover,
Yeah.
but maybe 80/20. And I do enough backcountry stuff riding that I needed to have something, but did enough trail that I couldn't go with a 155
Yeah.
and get around well and keep that going. How can I get that?
Yeah. Don't sweat it. Don't sweat it. Just tell us what you ordered for next year. We'll be good to go then.
I have the
Is it another
I have
SKS or?
I have the 146 850 Matrix Assault
Oh, nice.
in blue and silver
There you go. It's
with a
awesome.
2-inch track on it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Sounds good. So we got a couple more comments rolling in here from guests that are coming in, and we got Don Miles that says he just shared this into a couple of big groups up in Michigan, and I know somebody else did earlier too. I think it was Mr. Weeks had done that, and we've got Steve Gonzalez who's saying that he's ordered a couple of the Live Large shirts to help sponsor the Avalanche sponsorship and the scholarships and stuff that we're doing. So thank you, Steven, for that, and appreciate everybody's support and love for the show and getting it shared out and give Mike some exposure and just gives the sport of snowmobiling as a whole some exposure in some areas that maybe don't get the normal love. So,
Yeah, and let me see if you can see the back of my shirt here.
oh, what you got there? You're a little off to one side there. You're gonna have to go to your right, I think, or the other way. The other way. There you go. It says
Okay.
there's no center line. The right side is mine. I see it. There you go.
Yeah. So I have that on all my shirts, and that's kind of became my saying, and
Nice.
let's share it out and get it going.
Yeah. And so back to
Some of the other highlights I've done, I've been to Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island,
nice.
British Columbia was most excellent, and probably one of the bigger highlights was the Mishkanska ride.
Okay. What's that?
Mishkanska was a group of snowmobilers raising money for juvenile diabetes or for diabetes. And they took a ride from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan,
Okay.
4,000 miles to Tok, Alaska
Wow.
on a snowmobile.
That's a hike.
And somehow I got involved in that and said, I'll do the documentary.
So did you take the whole trip, or did you drive alongside of them with your car, or did you ride sled with them?
Trip. I had a partner with me that he would ride in the chase vehicle with them.
Okay.
But if it was a snowmobile day, I rode the snowmobile with them.
Nice.
And they had 72 snowmobilers do the whole trip. But there were too many to go into one town at one time. So they broke up into 3 groups.
Okay.
And they all left two days apart. So I would ride with one group for a week, then I would wait 2 days for the next group to show up, ride with them for a week, wait 2 days for the next group to show up. And then that winter, we had a warm-up in the middle of like Manitoba, and they rerouted everything.
Uh-oh.
And we didn't have a vehicle. I was traveling chase vehicles with my luggage and my sled, and so we had to rent a pickup truck
Uh-oh.
and catch up with everybody. But we did, and then up to Dawson City and into Tok, Alaska.
Nice.
And then one of my best rides ever was riding the top of the World Highway from Tok, Alaska back into Dawson City, Yukon.
Wow.
And while I was there, we had some Indian guides were there, and my wife, I lived in a log cabin house, and my wife always said, "You're always up there in the backcountry wilderness. I want a moose head for the house."
Nice.
So I got into this Indian village and said, "Hey, my wife asked if I could bring a moose head home. You guys got any?" And because I was the video guy, they said, "Sure, we wouldn't give anybody a moose, and it's against the law to sell them." But they gave me the moose head.
Wow.
And then I carried it around for a few days, and I was going to go out, and it was in the back of my pickup truck, but I was going to go ride the Alaskan highway. So the thing was all skinned down and just bones, but I didn't realize it still had brains in it.
Oh, no.
Put it in the hotel room.
Oh, no.
And after 2 days, I come back. They're going, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police want to talk to you.
Oh, my God. I got to hear that. Tell me the story in detail. I got to hear it.
And we've had to empty the hotel out and give everybody else another place to stay because you stunk out the whole hotel.
Oh, my God, Mike.
And the Royal Canadian Mounted Police have your moose head, and they want to talk to you about how you got a moose head, because it's against the law to have a moose head. Unless you hunted it.
Yeah.
And they don't let regular people hunt moose. It was the Native Americans had the free range moose.
Yeah.
So I went down there and talked to them for about 2 hours and told them where I got it. And they sort of knew that tribe. They knew the guy that gave it to me. They made a few phone calls, verified a few things. Nope, no money changed hands.
Yep.
And I said, and I was going to try to get an export license, which was going to cost me a ton of money to get an export license to get it back into the U.S.
Yeah.
And they ended up giving me an export license and a permit to own it.
Oh, my God. That's awesome.
I can't sell it. So that trip ended, and I stuck it in the back of a snowmobile trailer that was headed back to Michigan from Alaska.
Yeah.
And or from Dawson City, where the whole trip kind of broke up and everybody went their own way and drove back to Michigan there. But I hopped an airplane and went to Colorado and out to Wyoming for a few more weeks, which I think I left home February 4th that year, and I came home March 26th. And that was, at that point in time, probably my longest snowmobile trip I'd ever done.
Okay.
On that, and that helped introduce me to my new single life that I have now.
Your wife at the time finally lost patience with you to the point where it's like, well, Mike, this is
you've taught us to live on our own.
Yeah, like you've.
I go. I came back with a bunch of money. Well, good, give it to me, but.
And so you've been on the road for a while now by yourself, it sounds like, and then finishing up your top 10 list over the years too. We're creeping up on an hour here too, so I'm just going to put that on your radar and want to be respectful of everybody's time. So we'll pop through the rest of these top 10 lists here, and then we'll highlight some sponsors and some partnerships you've had at the end, and we'll wrap it up.
Trans-Montana Charity Ride, I want to give them a lot of credit. I worked with the Montana Snowmobile Association, and they do a big charity benefit ride with a bunch of snowmobilers contributing in, and I've done a documentary on that 2 years in a row.
Okay.
I made a kind of a movie out of it that they could sell, and the proceeds would go towards the charity, and put it on TV and promote what they're doing with the good things. Mm-hmm. But yes, it's only happened with a lot of help from a lot of good people that were very well connected in the snowmobiling, and were able to open up doors for me and reference me and make it work. And the ISC was a huge part of it, working with the American Council of Snowmobile Associations, which is the umbrella organization over all the state organizations. And then working with the CCSO, which is the umbrella organization over all the Canadian snowmobile organizations, working with them directly,
Okay.
Tied me into the Go Snowmobiling campaign, which had matching grants
Okay.
of up to $4,000. So that's kind of how I would pay for this stuff, was find a bunch of little money from a bunch of little places.
Yeah.
And then come up with enough that, okay, and go to the association. I have this raised. Can we apply for a grant? And I got on the approved grant sponsor list. And pretty much every time we applied for one, I was able to get it.
Great.
Working with the state or provincial organization to help make a snowmobile video to promote snowmobiling for them.
Yeah.
But it's been, I'll go through some quick names here. Bill Manson,
Okay.
MSA. Jim Duke, one of the founders of MSA, along with Bill Manson. Don Reed, one of the Michigan past president of the Michigan Snowmobile Association, hotel owner, really opened up a lot of doors for me. Gary Broderick with New York State Snowmobile Association.
Okay.
Levi Flores, who we've mentioned before, used to ride with me and introduced me to a bunch of people. Tori Nielsen, another Colorado guy, that extreme good backcountry, that helped introduce me to Johnny Bushman, who you've heard of, and some of the other backcountry guys, and Cal Taylor, Skinner Bell, Dwayne Sutton, a good friend of mine that just died this winter of heart attack, Randy Wolford, Wayne and Florence Muller from Washington State.
They're friends of mine right here locally. Yep.
Luke Wildman Dobbs.
Another.
Since my very first, one of my early Western trips, hooked up with him, and we just been good buddies since then, and actually helped me do a trip I did this my first year off of TV, where I was just moving over to social media going, is there life after TV? Is social media going to be strong enough?
Yeah.
Hooked up with 3 great lodges in Colorado, and I spent 6 weeks on the road.
Nice.
Michigan, then did something in South Dakota.
Okay.
With some of the senior leaders of snowmobiling and the Iron Dog Brigade.
Nice.
They have there. Michelle Valerie Labadie and her parents owned the snowmobile museum up in the Michigan UP, one of the bigger snowmobile museums around.
Nice.
Grand Marais, Michigan, which is kind of where, if I'm not working, that's I hang out up there.
Yeah.
That's kind of my snowmobiling home base area.
Yeah. I
got a few hotels and lodges that'll work with me and give me a place to stay, and we do some quick little videos with it. Carl Kanoski from Motor City Sledheads. I have to give one of my friends, Sylvia, big credit for watching my dogs when I go on the road, and
there you go,
take them away, and because without that I couldn't leave and couldn't do what I'm doing. And then some of this.
You got a lot of mutual friends of mine on there too. I bet half of your list, or a third of your list at least, is people that I've interacted with before, or met through the show, and just as I've traveled the country as well. A lot of great people on that list of people who've been supporting you over the years. So.
Yeah, so it's been Montana, Washington, Alaska, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, Quebec, Ontario, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, British Columbia, the Yukon Territories.
Yep.
And let me see the states here that I've worked with the state associations. And some of the clubs, Michigan, New York, Vermont, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Idaho. Utah with Cal Taylor, did some videos with him and his family, and different places where he's been on your show too.
Oh, yeah.
And then I guess one of the, I covered the Wisconsin Dew-Talk ride. Let me find a quick note here and I'm very scattered in my notes, but I tried to write some stuff down so I wouldn't forget it all. It's my sponsors, yes.
There you go.
That have helped me over the years. Diva Snow Gear.
Nice.
Has introduced me to a bunch of people and helped me gather sponsors. Straight Line Performance, Triton Trailers, Tech Vest, Tech Rider is one of my sponsors. R&R Trailers, Climb. I met John Summers like my very first year doing SnowTrails TV out in West Yellowstone, Montana.
Marvelous.
I had on my very first snowmobile gear that came used with my very first used sled.
Yeah.
My ripped Polaris jacket. He says, "I'm going to get you in some climb." And for the last 20 years, I got brand new climb gear every year
Wonderful.
to ride with. Uh, then there's Fly Racing has been a sponsor. Polaris.
One of my personal favorites, of course.
Yes, yes. The Ismago Snowmobiling Campaign. Stud Boy has been a regular sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
Legend Performance. They make two-stroke oil. Up North Sports, big retailer. Caliber Traction makes ramps, slider ramps.
Yep.
And then, of course, the American Council Snowmobile Association.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm missing a few over the 20 years, but
Yeah.
that's kind of the big ones that have worked with me. I probably have 7 or 8 pairs of snowmobile gear.
Yep. Yep.
A whole bunch of boots, and it's been a way better journey than I ever thought it would be.
Yeah.
And part of the fun of it is that after it's all been said and done and TV ended, I thought that was going to kind of be the end. And when we first talked, let's get you on the show and talk about your TV show. And I said, well, I just stopped the TV show.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And I'm not sure what the direction is going to be now.
Yep.
So it never proceeded.
Yeah.
But after moving my first year on social media and pushing that pretty hard and heavy, we ended up within 4 months having close to 200,000 viewers.
Nice.
Of straight snowmobile trafficking and hooking up with the groups and sharing it and getting the snowmobile groups to share it with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And share the videos around and pass it around and promote it. So that kind of helped me keep doing it. And then it became much easier now, because back when I was doing television, it's like, for me to come out and do something, if you wanted to have your own TV show for your own half-hour episode of someplace, it was like $8,000.
Yeah.
And that's a tough sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
A half a TV show was like $4,000, and that's a tough sell.
Yep.
Now I'm going like, cover my expenses, couple $100. I'm semi-retired at it.
Yeah.
Let's keep paperwork simple. We still have a really good following on social media.
Yep.
And like I say, this winter I went out and spent 6 weeks on a trail, this winter I went 42 days.
Okay.
I was out snowmobiling, pretty much in Michigan this winter.
Okay.
But the year before it was South Dakota and then Colorado and Electric Mountain Lodge. I got to throw a kick in for Electric Mountain Lodge.
Oh yes, Mr. Dobbs.
Yeah, Luke Dobbs just got that. He wasn't the GM there when I was there.
Yeah, yeah.
But he turned me on to the Electric Mountain Lodge and introduced me to the players there. So I did the video there. And then right after that, Luke took over. So I'd like to go back and work with him again, maybe do it during the summertime, because now I'm also doing, once I got off the SnowTrails thing, I'm going, all these places I go, they also do summer tourism stuff with ATVs, side-by-sides, and motorcycle touring.
Yeah.
Started up a ORV TV, Off-Road Vehicle TV.
Nice.
And then started up another one called Road Rider TV.
Okay.
For the motorcycle touring stuff. And I mount 4 or 5 cameras to my motorcycle and go around different angles, do the same thing with the side-by-sides. I don't own a side-by-side.
Yeah.
But I'm going, I can't shoot and drive one anyway. So
going for a ride.
Shoot and drive a snowmobile, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
And if I crash it, you just go into a snowbank. Side-by-side, no, we're not going to try to do that.
Yeah. Well, Mike, one thing that has stuck out to me throughout the night is that, similar to the efforts of what I've been working on is, when you have a real broad goal of supporting a community the way you have, a lot of people are really quickly eager to get on board and to support you. And that's been pretty obvious over the years with all the names that you've provided. all the businesses, all the organizations, the clubs, all the lodges over the years, and a lot of people have loved your work and what you've done. And if nothing else, I want to just let you know that from myself, and I think a lot of the people who will watch this, just collectively want to say thank you for your contribution to the sport of snowmobiling over the last 25 years plus at this point that you've been involved, and you're part of the Live Large family now. You've been on the show, and Live Large is all about live life to the fullest, make the most of every day, and make a difference in this world. And based on everything I just heard over this last hour, I'd say you've accomplished that. So welcome and congratulations to the Live Large family now. So.
Well, thank you very much. It's growing way more than I ever anticipated it ever would, and lasted a lot longer. And it's kept me from getting a real job.
There you go.
I must say, if I had known how much work it was going to be,
yeah,
I probably would not have started it.
Yeah, that's most people who are self-employed. Is it seems like this big dream when they first get going, and then they realize how much work it actually is. And most people who are self-employed end up working twice as hard as everybody else. So.
But it's far better than going in and punching the time clock going, I'm worth more than this.
Yeah.
I'm getting.
Nope, I hear you. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up. And just want to say thanks again for everything you've done. And for anybody who's out there, don't forget, just share the show. Let's get the word out about the community. If anybody has any questions, they can send me private messages about the Live Large merchandise or our new scholarship program for Live Large University. And, again, we're going to do Live Large ambassadors as well. So anybody out there who's watching the show, we've got a new email address I've set up called livelargeuniverse@gmail.com. People can send in information about the scholarships or the ambassadorships, and I'll be reviewing over the next few weeks, as well as dialing in all the details of the program. So, thank you, Mike, for being on.
Throw one more thing out.
Sure. Yeah, one more. Quick, go ahead.
People be able to see what I've done.
Sure.
I created a new website, and all my links to all my social media stuff is linked in there. But if they go to 45videomike.com.
Okay.
And 45video is my phone number.
Perfect.
But 45videomike.com, it has all my social media, the SnowTrails television, my Road Rider TV, and my links to my YouTube channel, my Vimeo channel. So if you're sitting around here during COVID time and want to go take a friend snowmobiling, I got lots of videos to help you plan your next vacation when it all comes back around again. And thank you very much for all you're doing for this too.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much. And Mike, once the show is done, feel free to jump into the comments and engage and interact with people, help answer questions, and then you can drop your links in there too for your website and anywhere else that people can get a hold of you.
All right. Thank you very much. I will.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us and watching. Mike, you can hang on to the Skype call here, and we'll talk to you in a minute. Thanks, guys.
Great.
Bye.